get it started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in the top right-hand corner of the map, from the team Kontakte. He jumped in at the last minute, but has been tearing things up here, Dan.
That's right.
It is the StC. And the StC is facing off against, in the bottom left-hand corner, the red Protoss player. From Team Axiom, ladies and gentlemen, it is CranK.
I just snuck in and did that.
That was sweet, yeah. Just slipped in there like a ninja, man.
It's Protoss vs. Terran starting off on Daybreak. PvT is still, I think, one of my favorite matchups to watch in Starcraft 2. I know Terran vs. ZerG is something really entertaining to me as well. When, you know, it's like classic Marine tank against Mutilating Bane. You kind of throw in some infestors and somewhere in the middle there. But I really like Daybreak also because most styles are viable. You know, we see Protosses take fast thirds. That's where we're starting to evolve on this map, where Parting was going for that quick third Nexus, mass gateways, and then just having an incredible max out on highly upgraded units with Twilight. At the same time, they can still go Colossus. They can still go for, you know, just standard robo play. So I don't think it's, you know, too out of the question, or sorry, I don't think it's too far out of the question that CranK has a lot of things at his disposal. I'm just wondering what he's going to do in this matchup. You know,
I think you make some great points there, Dan. Especially talking about how we're seeing Protoss versus Terran really switching in metagame a lot. It's been evolving even more. And as you said, Protosses have realized, hey, I can actually cut the tech a little bit, invest instead into economy, and, you know, instead of relying so much on splash damage, as, you know, most Protosses in the past have really favored, they realized I can actually just have tons of units, and they still work pretty well. You can't go too late into the game with that, but at certain stages it actually really works, because you take a look at Marine Marauder Medevac, you know, as long as they're not throwing out ghosts, and, I mean, then, you know, you don't have to worry about them making Vikings and things, you can really, I mean, you can actually deal with Marine Marauder Medevac with a lot of charge lots and some Blink Stalkers and take out some Medevacs and use mobility.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really key term, as we do see a scout into StC's base. He sees the factory, he sees the gas, doesn't see two gases, so he's going to want to keep his mind or eye out for that. Oh, look at that, CranK being cheeky and dropping a pylon, making sure that the barracks can't just immediately drop an add-on, and you can just cancel it. Just a small way to stall. In the end, not too consequential. But going back to what you said, Kibbles, you said really mobility is key, and that's really true, because what is Protoss really afraid of early on? They're really afraid of the Marine poke that might happen around the 5-6 minute mark, but they're also really afraid of 2 medevac timings. That's very prevalent in almost every single Terran matchup. And when they're spread out thin, they want to get things like Blink, maybe a +1 armor. They go Robo Twilight in conjunction and try to go for that quick upgrade, and that way they can pick off the medevac and use little amount as possible in order to maximize economy.
You're absolutely right about that. You know, drop's just such a threat.
Whoa! Look at this. We've been seeing Protoss players do this quite often, actually, going Stargate when they see a 1-base Terran.
And what's going to be interesting about this is that it looks like the StC will a starport go down here in a second. He's got the gas port. I really think it, well, it could be command center. All right, it is going to be a CC. So it's not going to be drops, in fact. 4 Hellion drops are so incredibly scary against Protoss right now if you don't get those early gateways. And a Stargate, you know, unless you caught them, say, you know, over maybe on the right-hand side or something, it really just depends on your luck. You know, and if you scout that medevac coming in, but if you don't, you can take some serious damage.
I still think it could be some kind of early starport play if StC wants to go for some of those mind games, really, but it doesn't look like it is at all, as he is going for just another barracks. Okay, so he's making it seem like he is. This is where the mind games really come in. CranK is going for Phoenixes because not only does it shut down the medevac play, it also shuts down any follow-up with Banshees. He can get a good scout. You just don't want to overcommit because Phoenixes are pretty intense on gas early on. CranK's still going to do the safer route and drop a gateway too, because he doesn't know what's going on in his opponent's base until he gets over there.
Absolutely, Dan. You know, something here also about shutting down drops. This is a little bit bad for CranK in one regard, in the fact that, you know, he's not actually countering drops, because StC is not going for drops. So, you know, one of the advantages that Phoenix would normally offer him is mute. It's not here. There's, I mean, yeah, of course, they have harassment and scouting potential. As you can see, they're coming in now. But, you know, what's a good analogy here? It's like, honestly, it's these Phoenix guys. They're, they normally just offer such benefits. It's kind of, you know, maybe you've got a 401k, you're investing into it, and but you know, all of a sudden you have an employer who just, oh, actually they're not going to be investing. You're like, well, isn't that the whole point of, you know, putting into a 401k? Otherwise, you just go into your own stocks. Dan, I mean, these Phoenix, yeah, they're getting a little bit of harassment done, but this starport's late enough, and they're actually killing off a fair amount of Marines and SCVs. So let's point that out. Units lost. He's killed 4 or 5 now.
Oh, but he's also pressuring with the Stalkers, and that because the lack of Marines, they can continue to pressure. This is a great fallout response. KranK, of course, gearing up for an expansion just in case. The Phoenix is just doing whatever they can. You just kind of have to micro the Stalkers back. This is big trouble for StC because he took it very lax on his defense. Doesn't have a bunker in position at all, and the Marines are getting very weak. The Stalker shields are starting to regenerate kibbles. One of them's already fully back.
This is actually a crazy build out of KranK. I mean, it definitely looked like with only 2 gateways, he was going to be sitting back more, but now standing to possibly do some serious damage here to the StC. Now, StC should not fall by any means. I mean, he's got stim completed. He needs to pull Marines. Well, he's engaging with his Marines before his SCVs arrive, losing quite a few of them already, and here are the SCVs tanking a lot of this damage, and the Marines, yeah, doing so much damage with that stim. Should be able to clean these units up, but a lot of damage dealt to the StC for sure.
I think if KranK played his cards right, he could have actually killed the StC, but I think he was trying to do micro back, you know, everything at the same time, and he lost control of his Phoenixes temporarily. He was also trying to expand back at home. He has to deal with Hellions still harassing at that natural, as there were a few, and only one is popping out now. You can see that KranK, he just wanted to do a lot of damage, and he got it. He supplied blocked StC considerably. He killed off a lot of his workers. Worker count is 17 to 34, and KranK is firmly in control of this game.
Yeah, he definitely is. I mean, he dealt a lot of economic damage there, killing off, well, let's see, 12 SCVs, in fact, a huge quantity there.
Well, and he stole mining time, too, and StC couldn't make workers because he was supply blocked.
I mean, he definitely forced a lot of things out of the StC. The StC did not want, and now, I mean, well, he's got an expansion on the low ground here. There is a pylon as well, which actually he doesn't know that pylon's there. Oh, that could oh, no, yeah, he's going to see it with the SCV. So, but, yeah, KranK, at this point, we saw Twilight Council, so he'll probably be researching something out of that in the near future.
Yeah, Twilight Council, I mean, unless he wants to go for like a really quick Dark Templar shrine, which I don't think is the case.
Yeah,
you probably want to go, oh, he's going to go for Templar Archives instead. This is something that's really kind of cool because we've seen some Protosses lean towards an earlier Templar Archives because, well, Templars and Storm ignore upgrades, really. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to matter that you're behind in that regard. And especially since he's ahead, he's getting a tech that's really, really powerful against, I guess, a naked starport. Because you want Storm, you want you want Medivacs to combat Storm. You want the availability of, you know, being able to heal fast.
Yeah.
But this is a good time to move up for StC too, because this is where KranK is powering up.
Yeah. And
KranK also has some Phoenixes back at the natural because he's trying to harass any mule that drops down, so he doesn't necessarily have it ready for this fight, and that's where he has to summon them back.
All right, force fields are going to be very important here if StC pushes this engagement. We'll have to see. He is lifting a few units up with that medevac right now, Dan. That's going to bring a little bit of harassment into the main base of KranK. Will he oversend units here to respond to this? We're going to find out.
Oh, well, the units here, there's enough to just instantly snipe probes, and KranK will have to split up some of his units, but he has to be very cautious because he knows that he's very weak at his natural front. The Phoenixes come in to deal with the medevac immediately. KranK does force field, trap some of the units, warping in more, but the Sentry energy is very low, so it's not like he can keep doing this. StC picking a perfect area to attack, and it seems like KranK is, well, he got a little bit too greedy, going to Templar Archives and for a Twilight Council, not able to get either down. In fact, he hasn't warped into anything off of that, and that is about, well, that's about 450 gas that he hasn't been able to use. Yeah,
this is really bad for KranK right now. I mean, this quantity of Marines is very scary, and the splitting out of StC was beautiful. In fact, going to force the GG right here out of KranK. Wow. I mean, all right.